With the latest tragedy of the senseless murder of George Floyd, many of us are struggling to pay bills amidst a pandemic and are met with the sobering reminder that COVID-19 isn't the only enemy ravaging our nation. Just a quick note, I am in no way comparing what's happening to the people like George Floyd versus people that are obese. It's not the same to be murdered by a police officer as it is to not be. But the basic premise of this is that discrimination in its many forms is absolutely rampant in our country, and it's getting a lot of attention, not just because it should, but also because things keep happening to the people that are discriminated against in this country because our leader is a professional discriminator. So I wanted to make sure it was clear. I completely respect the family, George Floyd's family, and in no way am I trying to gain anything from his tragic loss. I don't make any money off of this. I'm coming to you guys to talk about it, but my thoughts and positive energy is being sent right to that family and all the people that are affected by this. I'm so sorry. I propose an official Trump-monger definition, the latest form of blatant discrimination lacking any moral compass or even the ability to behave like a professional with total disregard to science, logic, or coherent dialogue. So today what I'd like to do is address the under-discussed issue of health discrimination with races as well as illnesses. In healthcare, there is a lot of discrimination, starting here with the idea of women versus men and their treatment of pain, as well as assumptions of emotional distress rather than actual pain. Despite the confusing nature of people to disregard racial discrimination, it's interesting that CDC actually has a specific program to address it because that's how rampant it is. If you guys are like me and have ever had to worry about your weight, then this will be something that you recognize. And you probably also have had some experiences with doctors that have treated you differently because of your weight or held back certain care because of your weight, assuming that all of your problems may be just related to your weight. So let me know if any of you struggling with your weight or in the past or now, if this sounds familiar to you, going into doctor's offices and not finding a chair to accommodate your size, or having to sit there while they search for the really big arm cuff while everybody watches that you can't use the regular one, or any number of other positions that you're put in because of your weight, like a dismissal of your symptoms, assuming it's all weight related. Those are really big issues and they do happen every day. Harvard has actually put together a quiz for anyone who thinks, well, I'm not biased against people who are overweight, it doesn't matter to me. Apparently that's a misnomer that people think about themselves because it's easier to admit that you're not than to admit that you are discriminating against a group. They actually have a website, implicit.harvard.edu, and I will tag that in the description below. I wanted to preface this next topic with the admission that when I was younger, when I was a kid, right up until around the end of middle school, I would probably have been classified as an attention-seeking hypochondriac. There's a big difference between attention-seeking and fear-driven. For the every time I try and talk to you guys, the hypochondriac that wants attention, it's very simple. They don't feel like they get enough attention in one way or the other, and so they either make up a disease or issue, or they also help create one for themselves, so that they are believed, so that they are heard, so they feel like they matter in a serious way. Or when you were a kid, if you were a hypochondriac like me, it was just, did anybody else have that issue of people that were friends in elementary or middle school that got a cast and they got to pick their color and everybody would sign it like a yearbook on your arm? It's weird, but I was like, why don't I get one of those? But what happens is if you keep doing that, then when you actually get hurt, people are like, no, it's more than cry wolf. My dad would get mad. Like, it's not okay to pretend you're sick about something when you have parents that are worried about you and you can't ever tell if that really happened or not, because you also lie when you're a kid to get out of stuff or to try and get yourself inserted in a situation where you want to be noticed and appreciated and thought of as more than that kid that should be seen and not heard. So I'm prefacing with that and then further explaining that fear-driven hypochondria is actually an issue where you have anxiety about your health care. Right here. Not my head. This is not my metric. I'm saying I think it may have just transitioned. I figured out, it's not any fun if something's really wrong with you. Getting attention for it. Be careful what you wish for, I guess, because I had a really bad knee injury that happened twice on the same knee, and then I broke 2 fingers. I've broken all of my fingers, all of them, and a few toes. I have never broken a major bone. And I'm the opposite of a hypochondriac as far as wanting an illness or wanting to be believed of having something. I'm more overwhelmed by everything, and now everything is freaking me out. Health anxiety is where you freak out about stuff. I put off a biopsy for like a month because no one doctor would put anything in front of me to say, I understand that you are afraid. Everybody was just, you just have to have it done. We can't do anything until you do that. We can only confirm your diagnosis with, doing this biopsy. So, it's really frustrating because if you put together the issue of having a really crappy doctor, and then on top of that, you already have this anxiety issue that has not been believed or addressed. This dry mouth every day. Again, don't know what I was saying, but I think it was about the doctor. You have, people get in this mindset where they're like, well, maybe I need a second opinion, or maybe I want to see if everybody agrees. It is recommended. If you go online and say, how do you handle having a doctor that is dismissive or having no bedside manner of like a werewolf, right? And just, okay. You're supposed to bring questions. You're supposed to look things up, to clarify things. Some people don't look at things because it makes them get freaked out. I'm a data person. I like the knowledge. I've gone to see people, let's see, this is my 3rd GI or liver doctor here, 2 more in Atlanta, plus urgent care and emergency room visits. And it is not fun having to go around and deal with this overwhelming issue or illness that you may have, like I do, and you look up everything and everything can be kind of scary, especially if you don't even have a medical background. You're like, what do all these words even mean? And when you are feeling like that, especially like with my illness, it is considered a rare illness. There are not a lot of people that specialize in it. So not only am I stuck with something that has like outdated treatment because it's the same treatment since the 50s. They've made no advances whatsoever. And on top of that, I have this treating physician who is not someone that I would pick if I had a choice here, but I've already seen 3 here. And I'm not including the affiliation of the doctor, their name or anything like that. I'm not bringing that into it. It's not about him as a person. It's about him as a physician, which will be a perfect segue into when to fire your doctor. Okay, so I'm going to list 9 things that you should remember about when you should fire your doctor. Seek out another provider. The first one is if you don't mesh well. If you have a specific expectation of, I need it to be a male or a female, I need it to be someone younger, someone older, someone that's a surgeon versus someone who's not. Do you agree on the approach? Do they listen to you? Do they express apathy for your time? Number 2, number 1, you don't mesh well. Your personalities are just never going to jive. You have to have trust with your physician. And if they don't make you feel safe and heard, you're not going to have that trust. It's going to be harder to go through your treatment. And then 2 would be the apathy for your time. Whereas, on our end as a patient, if you're late or you don't come and you can't call or something, you get charged. And if you do that even twice or maybe 3 times, a doctor can dismiss you from his practice or her practice for doing that with your appointments. But on the other side of things, if we schedule an appointment and they're an hour behind, there's nothing there to help you if you're the one that was on time and he's late or she's late. It's a one-way street of oppression in that way, it sounds dramatic, but this is your time, this is your money, this is your health, that you may be going for something that's just a regular checkup and it's just annoying, or you have an issue that needs to be addressed or handled, and it doesn't make you feel like it is handled when someone is so dismissive. Also, if your doctor keeps you in the dark, like with my issues, I picked all the ones that made sense. There's actually 12 of these, from health.usnews.com. The credits will be at the end. For me, for example, I had a CT scan and it revealed that I have an enlarged spleen, which is concurrent with the diagnosis of liver disease at my stage for sure. But I didn't know that. Not one physician told me about that. My treating physician or nurses didn't look at anything. The most recent second or third or eighth opinion, they looked at the notes and then were like, yeah, you have an enlarged spleen, da 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 da. Like, I did not know that. If your doctor doesn't keep you in the loop, if they keep you in the dark about things, they usually are not even spending that much time on you. I don't warrant my doctor's precious time. If they don't listen, which is kind of going in the same direction, I tell people right away, like, I'm so sorry, I have a lot of anxiety related to my health. And instead of someone going, you know what, that totally makes sense because you went from being fine to waking up one day and your whole life went upside down and changed. And having some basic understanding of what that might feel like and giving a crap about the whole patient and not just where you need to do treatment and where you can get paid. It can also be a problem if you're not comfortable with the staff, if they're not professional either, if they give you attitude instead of empathy. If you don't feel comfortable or safe, do you have a doctor who does these things? And so when you have an issue, do you feel like you can send them a message or call them and actually get to talk to your doctor, or at least get your information heard by an assistant or nurse, that you get a relayed message back? Or do they just not address those issues? They're unreachable. Can you only contact the nurses or the assistants? Or the front desk? And are they rude or condescending? This is hard to differentiate because most doctors, especially if they've been in the field a while, they have propped themselves up on their ego. So that's going to be pretty significant. But not everybody that has an ego has what they need to back it up. And my issue is that I recently had a request from my doctor to have an MRI done. I tried to post this a couple days ago, but I guess the universe was not having it because it kept not working. And that's fine, because I was doing it in anger and not thinking before I spoke. So it's probably best. But I asked for an MRI because I've been having this left-sided pain. It's been going on for a little while, and it just started getting a little worse. And then I find out that I have an enlarged spleen, and I'm like, well, crap, that's what's over there. Plus irritable bowel, plus, this and that. So I've got a lot of things going on that it could be. And when I expressed this to my doctor, he said no. So I was like, okay, you're gonna have to give me a call because this is not okay. You don't just say no without any explanation for why. And so he calls me and immediately is completely condescending, saying my name over and over again like I'm a child. Like, Natalie, you do this and you do that. He is claiming that when I write them through the electronic chart for a question or help with something, it's taken as demanding. And first of all, I think we've all been in the position where people have assumed your tone in an email or text rather than just giving you the benefit of the doubt that maybe you're not trying to be a dick. That maybe you're not trying to be a jerk. But he just kept going. He was, first of all, he was condescending, telling me that he didn't care what I wanted, that he believes that it's not warranted, and therefore, he is God on Almighty on high, or whatever they think. And he's like, I don't believe you need one, therefore you don't get one. I'm like, okay. He says that I make these demands, and then he starts to make fun of me. My treating physician for my rare disease, literally, not hyperbolically, actually made fun of me on the phone. I don't think you need an MRI. It's not warranted. I mean, if it gets, if there's a difference of a millimeter, that's not going to tell you anything. How would you know if you didn't look at it? I'm telling you I have pain in this region. I'm telling you I would like something to look at that and find out what it is. An MRI would see what's going on over there, whether it's the intestines or the pancreas or the spleen or the stomach, all things that could cause this kind of pain. And instead he chops me down left and right. He's like, what's next? An ultrasound? Oh, I have a headache. I need a CT scan. Verbatim, my doctor said this to me without hesitation, made fun of me for my need for clarification. And when he typed up my information about the only office visit I've ever had with him, he put my health anxiety in quotation marks because he doesn't even believe me. So I feel like I have a couple things against me between the obesity trend, I'm an informed patient, and he doesn't like that, stepping on his I'm almighty toes. I'm not trying to treat myself, but I need to have a person that I can trust, that I can believe cares about my health and not just their RVUs. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So at the moment he ended it by saying, that's all. And it was quiet. So I'm like, well, then that's all, I guess. So I just hung up because it sounded like he hung up, and anything that I could have said would have just made the situation worse. So for everybody, I was furious. I was so furious. I haven't cried about it because it's not about sadness. It's about furious, because I need someone to take me seriously. I need someone to realize that just like some people have a very low threshold for pain, or they have a low threshold for the sensitivity of medication, or if you're a redhead, a natural redhead has to have a different amount of medication to put you under general anesthesia because you have a genetic predisposition to have issues unless they adjust it. I don't remember if it's up or down. I think you need more because it goes away faster or something, metabolism of some kind, but I could be wrong. It's either up or down, obviously, 50-50. So I am just sitting over here in silence. I'm going to go get my labs done on Monday, and I can see the results when they go in the chart. And at some point, I'm sure they will send me a message to tell me what medicine, if any, to change. And I'm going to be trying to figure the situation out because it is very hard, especially in this climate with COVID and everything else going on. It's cut. It's pretty painful to hear anybody have an issue with discrimination of any kind. Like saying out loud with no regard that the only good Democrat is a dead Democrat. These are not issues, or, once they start the looting, we start the shooting. This is our leader. This is the President of the United States, who feels completely comfortable saying, when they start looting, we start shooting, even as a reference. That's what he's going to lean on now. It was just a reference. I didn't say it. He said it. Ask him. I don't understand. And I don't know why more people don't figure this out. I think this came to my mind so much because his words are so toxic and pervasive in our environment right now. It's like every day there is something, and it's just ridiculous. And during this time with Michigan and all of the damming, the damn flood. What's going on in Michigan, and then all across the country there's things going on. There's protests and stuff now, and we're still in a pandemic. We still have a risk here. So these people are saying, hey, I'm going to protest because this matters more. This is what matters. Sorry. And that is fine. That's what should happen. I don't think there should be looting. I think that's crossing a line. And I think that the last time we were successful with civil rights in this country, the leader at the time did not condone that kind of behavior. But at the same time, how do you tell someone what's right or wrong? How do you get someone's attention? How many people have to die before someone goes, you know what? I need to get this fixed. This needs to stop. These are citizens of our country. These are people who work hard. George Floyd was a truck driver, and he had a family. He had a life. And because of what happened, that got taken away. And any form of discrimination, it chips away at your identity. It floods you with doubt and fear and, self-esteem issues just by who you are, your identity. You haven't even opened your mouth and said something to discuss what you sound like or what your intelligence level is. It's all assumed just by looking at you. Oh, you're black, so you are probably going to start looting and things like that. No, those don't connect that way. It's not causal. It's not post hoc, therefore propter hoc, or whatever it is. I'm sure that I could do my whole thing in Latin and Trump just wouldn't be able to understand it. This is a little ranty, I get it, but that was kind of the point. The discrimination that goes on, whether it's your race, whether it's your socioeconomic status, whether it's your relationship status, your education level, your sexual orientation. These are all issues that people deal with, and more. I'm probably forgetting some that people deal with every day. And I think they'd have like a level or scale, because obviously me and my issues with my doctor is nowhere near the issues with the black community being completely terrorized by police officers who think that they are better than. But we all live in our world. This is our reality. So when I'm in my world and it's my reality, it makes me just as afraid because I'm being kept in the dark. I'm not being listened to. I'm being condescended and being made fun of. And I keep being told no, no, no with things that I would like to have checked. And just because it's just not what he does. We just don't do that. We do it when I say. So maybe my doctor and Trump are good friends. It sure feels like it. But even just, being looked at, and before I open my mouth, before I do anything or say anything, people look at me and they're like, okay, you're fat. Like, you're not just a little fat. You're pretty fat. Your head is bald. You're shaved. And that lends some confusion, I think, because when you see a shaved head with, it's obvious that it's not just a shaved head. I've got these patches even after just a day. I did this yesterday or the day before, within 48 hours. But they don't know anything about me. They don't know anything about me. And I'm not saying it's the majority of me having a weight problem is me having a weight problem. As aside from the binge eating disorder that I'm mostly in check on. It only happens now during really peak times of stress. But my wife and I work that out together and pick better things, But people just, they judge you and have this idea about you right away. Like, oh, you look like you might be Hispanic or Latin American of some descent like that, Spanish, anything under that umbrella. I'm not trying to leave anybody out. So they make an assumption about who they are, what they do, and were they born here? Did they, grew here or flew here? When you see your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't haggle over the price of the hose. If someone could get Trump to, if he can't read things, then if they could get him, strapped in a chair like Clockwork Orange or even that conspiracy one. I'm gonna cut that out. Cut. It's just ranting at this point, but I want everyone to realize that you have the ability. You do it in reverse. Kind of like if you wanted to get a new job. Some people can just walk out. Most people cannot, especially right now. People are accepting way less for themselves because they have no choice, and this is not right. Anyway, I keep forgetting what I'm saying, which is usually my key to stop saying things, my trigger to stop saying things. It's not any better for anybody. They don't want to be called out for freckles or not, curly hair or straight, light skin, dark skin, olive skin, alabaster skin. We are all human beings, regardless of what we believe or what we look like. That's a fundamental way we are all connected. We are all here. We all showed up one day. No one said, hey, Natalie, you're about to be born into the world. Get ready, because it's going to be a ride. No, we just show up one day, and here we are, having to muddle our way through the climate of and the environment of what the people before us left for us. And Trump is setting us up for the kids that are coming up to have a lot more to deal with. I think that I'm done with my rant, and just remember that you have the power to make a change. You go see the other doctor first, second opinion, third, fourth, fifth opinion. Once you know you have someone that you can continue seeing, then you write in writing, tell them in writing that they are fired and that this is why. Or at the very least, call and say, no, nothing, I'm not going to say anything. However you handle confrontation is up to you. But you have the ability to do it. Don't be afraid. Just find a doctor, make sure you have refills on things, and then do what you need to do, because nobody should be facing any kind of discrimination ever. But when they do, it should be just as easy to walk away from it as it is for those people to to project that onto you in the first place. Thank you guys for listening, watching, for those of you who did. As a reminder, please share, like, subscribe, interact with me a little bit, give me a comment or something. That way I can continue to make content that people actually want to watch. I don't want to just drone on. Nobody wants to hear about me unless it somehow relates to them. I get it. We are all the same species. I understand that too. So I hope I get to see you guys more. And unless something comes up, then we'll see you guys on Medical Monday. Be good to yourselves. And I'm sorry I keep looking this way. I have the phone a different way. Hey guys, I finally got a mask that can be washed and reused. And it's also fun because look how my ears stick out on the side.